Did you guys catch when the producers wrongly labeled Tracy's grandkids as Trina's grandkids? I'm like, Tracy can't get a break. She can't catch a break with this show. Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Joy from She Speaks 2. Today I'm going to be reviewing Braxton Family Values Season 7. I think this is episode 5 or 6. I'll have it right at the bottom. Anyway, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. So this episode opens up with Tony talking to Daddy Braxton, and she is talking about the fact that Tawanda is going to be visiting Tracy, and Tony is telling her dad that she thinks it's a good idea because she hopes that maybe they can smooth things over before they meet at her house. Once again, I'm disappointed. Why does it have to be smooth over with the other sisters? Why aren't you intervening? You're the big sister. Once again, I'm just disappointed. She talks to her dad. Her dad has these old pimp quotes that he uses. I loved you from the first moment I saw you. You know, it's her dad, so it's not creepy, but those are definitely like old pimp, my nose ring was turning. Those are definitely old pimp sayings that pimps say to their women to kind of make them feel good. Girl, you know you're the only one. You my bottom, you know what? And so he uses that line. Even she knew that was a line. So then we have Trina talking to Miss Braxton, and they're doing a video call. First off, you know how older people do video calls. All she can see is like her nose and her eyes. So she tells her to scoot the phone back a little bit, and so she does. And Miss Braxton has a new, Mommy Braxton, she has a new wig. She has full face makeup. Trina says, "Mommy, what are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I'm just laying on the couch." Now that's glamour. That's glamour right there. So they just kind of talk a little bit about COVID, and Mommy Braxton says her gang of girls have tested positive, and I'm thinking, who are you hanging with? Who are these? Who is your crew that your girls have tested positive? And she said, thankfully, that she is negative, but she's quarantining to just make sure and protect other people. But I thought that was really funny. She said, my girls are positive. You know, the girls that I run with. I said, oh, okay. The girls that I run with. Then we have Tawanda getting into the DMV area. She is meeting up with her dad, and once again, this is another old people saying. She asked her dad how her dad and Miss Wanda are doing, and he says, you know, we've just been staying home, looking at the TV, not watching, but looking at the TV. And he informs Tawanda, and then he's also been singing. So I think Daddy Braxton is gearing up to release an album. I think that's why he wanted to sing at the wedding, and I think that's why he keeps bringing it up. I think Daddy Braxton will be releasing a gospel or a Christmas album pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. So they talk about Tracy, how Tracy misses her niece, Lauren, and how even Lauren called Tracy mom. So when Tracy said in the first or second episode how that was her daughter and she's actually having womb pains, she was not exaggerating. She really had a close relationship with her niece, and I feel like it's so unfortunate, so sad that they've lost someone so young. And Tracy, you can tell that it is hitting her hard, very hard. So I feel like that's really sad. So then we have Tony in the booth singing. There's nothing much with this scene. Of course, she has to make a big to-do about wiping down the instrument, not the microphone and everything before she gets to sing, because she has lupus and she will let you know. She didn't talk about it this episode, but of course she has to protect herself. Even when she was on the phone with her dad and she was outside, she still had a mask on. She took it off to talk to him, but she's like, I just feel so weird. And by the way, I hate her hair. Hate is a strong word. I really dislike her hair. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's micro links. I don't know what it is. I don't like this. I don't like her hair. I want it to be explained. I want her to explain to me what her vision was. I want to see how it started and how it ended. You know, those pictures, how it started, how it began, and how it ended. I want to see what her vision for her hair was. Anyway, so then we have Thirsty Sean. Thirsty Sean is gonna meet up with Daddy Braxton. He's meeting up with Daddy Braxton because he wants to ask for Tawanda's hand in marriage. And Daddy Braxton said, you know, you don't need my blessing, because even if I said no, you probably would still marry her. And Thirsty Sean said that's probably true. And Daddy Braxton said, as long as you treat her right. And then Thirsty Sean said, you know, what is the secret to keep a Braxton woman happy? And obviously Daddy Braxton doesn't know. He doesn't talk to Miss Evelyn, and more than all his daughters didn't speak to him for a certain amount of time, so he doesn't know. Don't ask him. Ask Miss Wanda. Ask him how he keeps Miss Wanda happy, because Miss Wanda looks good and happy. And then Daddy Braxton has an earring. I said, go, you know, get your youth on, Daddy Braxton. So we have Tawanda going to Tracy's house. And this is an example of how Tracy is not respected. Tawanda goes to Tracy's house. She said, I requested crabs, and Tracy said, no, I'm one crab away from having gout, so I made soul food like chicken, greens. And you know, you can jokingly say, oh, I really was expecting crabs. Tawanda mentioned it about 3 or 4 times, maybe I'm exaggerating, that she expected Tracy to make crabs, and Tracy said, you know, maybe a long time ago she would have, but she's not doing that. She has boundaries, and this may seem slight or little to some people, that she's even having boundaries with what food she makes, but that she has to establish little boundaries and able to establish big boundaries. The Tracy of yesteryear may have gone out of her way and made her sister the dish that she wanted, but she's setting up her boundaries, and I think they're appropriate, and I love that she's able to communicate. She's like, no, this is what I'm cooking. I mean, can you eat mac and cheese? What can you eat? And so I think it was kind of rude for Tawanda to kind of expect that she would just get the meal that she wanted because she decides to go into town to see Tracy. And I really think that she's only seeing Tracy because they're filming. The wedding was 7 months ago. You didn't see her then, but now that you're filming, you want to have a scene with her. So that's just how I feel. So they talk about the boundaries. Let's talk about Tracy's kitchen. Tracy has a nice house, and it looks, I mean, she has a clean, nice house. I think that in some ways she may be doing better, and she may be more balanced and normal than the other sisters. Before Tawanda got to Tracy's house, she said, I'm not going to bring up the wedding until Tracy wants to talk about it. Well, then why are you there? If we're not going to discuss issues, let's stop with all the fluff. And I think that's why Tracy gets so angry, because everyone skirts around issues, and then they want to play nice, and she's not with it, and she doesn't know how to express it. But she is doing, in this episode, I thought that she did a very good job expressing herself. I can tell that the counseling sessions really have been working. So Tawanda said her boundaries are in her booty, and then they show the sisters walking off. And I can say, I think Tawanda, of all the sisters, I think Tawanda has the best body, and I think my body is similar to hers. But anyway, I think that she has the best body on the show as far as the sisters are concerned. I like her, how she's shaped. So then we see Tracy talking to her therapist. She's talking about the upcoming trip to with the sisters, and she's kind of hesitant to go, but we all know she's gonna go. And the therapist said, I can tell that you want to go. And Tracy brought up something important. She said she has her queendom, and they all have their queendom, and then when she gets around them, they take away from hers and kind of like overpower her because there's too many queens. And I think what she was trying to say, what I took from that, is that her sisters all have strong personalities, and because of how it's always been, she always is shadowed. Her voice isn't heard. She's always shrunken in their presence, and it's hard for her to maintain the fact that, because she's a married woman, she's a mother, she's a grandmother, she's an artist, she's all these good things, but when she's around her sister, she just shrinks into, that's just Tracy. And I think that that's what she was trying to say. And then she said she's gonna try to maintain her queendom. And I said, go Tracy, maintain that. And so then she talks about the fact that she has grandkids, and she has kids, grandkids, and she's leaving a legacy for them. She said that her husband was married before, never knew that he has a daughter. Daughter has a son who Tracy considers her grandson, and then Tracy's son has a son, so she has 2 grandkids. Then they label those grandkids Trina's grandkids. I said, if I can catch it, why didn't they catch it? Why didn't they catch that they labeled it wrong? If I was Tracy watching that, I would be pissed off. They need to come back 1 minute later after the show, correction to that scene. We meant to say Tracy's grandkids, and that's what I'm gonna say. Then we see the sisters getting to the rental house. Tracy is excited. Well, Trina and Tawanda arrive first. Tracy's very excited, And she had, I mean, her energy, I love her energy, just running up to her sisters, hugging them. They kind of make a big joke about her wanting boundaries. They're like, oh, Tracy and her boundaries are here. They decided to show up. And, you know, they said that a couple of times. First couple of times is haha, but it's like, respect the fact that this lady has boundaries and she's trying to establish healthy boundaries. So what else did they talk about? They talked about the fact that Tony's boyfriend, they didn't call him fiance, Tony's boyfriend flew them all private. Tony called and she said that she invited them, but she wants them to quarantine for about 3 days. Apparently a nurse will come test them maybe that day. They'll quarantine for 3 days before she even shows up. I'm like, that is a lot just to see you, Tony. I don't know, that's a lot just to see her. So they talked about that. They talked about Tracy's boundaries again. Then they talk about Tawanda and Sean, how Sean hasn't proposed officially, and then they flash back to Vaughn proposing to Trina. She said he didn't get down on one knee. And then they talk about, they're like, Tony can't say nothing. They had a little place setting for Tony because she's been engaged for 4 years, and they all busted out laughing. I think Tawanda said, would you say that in her face? If she was here, Trina said she is here. She's right here. And it was like an empty place. So, Evelyn, okay. So Evelyn calls, or Tony calls Evelyn, Miss Evelyn, Mommy Braxton, calls her and tells her to come to visit the girls in the house and cook. And then Miss Evelyn says, you know, my food does bring healing, and I would love to cook. And I'm like, the food doesn't bring healing because you've been cooking all of their lives and they're not healed. The nastiness there's a nastiness in the sisterhood. There's a nastiness in your attitude towards Tracy that needs to be addressed, that cannot be addressed with food. You talk to her a certain way. You don't treat her like the other sisters. That cannot be resolved with food. And Tracy brings that up with her conversation with Trina. Tracy brought up something that really, really made me so sad. She said at the wedding, she noticed the sisters were making faces, which she was hypersensitive to that, a little bit too sensitive. So they were making faces, you were singing with daddy, whatever. But then she goes to sit by herself. Tamar puts a chair, and she said Tamar flips her hair and said, what's wrong? What'd I do? And then she told her not to, and Tamar did it again. She said that's when she grabbed the chair. And she said that's when Tawana came in there, Miss Evelyn came in there. As soon as Mommy Braxton came in there, both Tawana and Tamar turned and said, it's Tracy, it's Tracy. And she said, this was really sad. She said, it reminded me of when we were children. And I said, so this really has been happening all her life. And her mom immediately, without asking questions, took the other girl's side. And like I said, something that's been happening all her life. And that made me really sad for Tracy. To be that black sheep or that sister on the outskirts for whatever reason. I mean, whatever reason, she just said her mom, and that made her sad. I mean, by the time she was done with this conversation with Trina, she was in tears, and you could see Trina was choking up with her ode to the boat. Trina said that Tracy, I love what Trina said. She said Tracy is absolutely right. Who are we to absolve her feelings and not acknowledge it? Sometimes her delivery is wrong, but she's absolutely right. Tracy said, I will fight for my sisters. You know, I will do anything for you guys. Even if y'all are wrong, nobody messes with my sister. And Trina agreed. So that lets you know that everyone knows that Tracy has a big heart. And so why is she being treated this way? Trina said that Tracy has been really hurt, and she said, and she acknowledged that Tracy's treatment has been unfair. And she didn't say unfair by Mommy, unfair by Tamar. She wasn't specific, but I know that a lot of it she's been unfair with Miss Evelyn. And I wish that these girls could get out of this childhood thing where they cannot hold their mother accountable. In a lot of Black cultures, a lot of African cultures, you cannot hold your parents accountable because it's considered disrespectful. But I wish that they could hold their mom accountable and say, Mommy, there were times that you were so unfair to Tracy that you have broken her as a woman, and you need to sit down and acknowledge her feelings. And Miss Evelyn just said, oh, I can't come and cook because, you know, my cooking just brings everybody together. No, that's not what needs to happen. Tracy can cook for herself. Tracy knows how to cook. She demonstrated that. So, and another thing to note in this episode is that Tamar was not there. I don't think we're gonna see her, but that makes me hopeful because without Tamar, the episodes are still good, and I really didn't think that the show could survive without her, so that's a good positive. So this is Joy. I think that's all I have. So this is Joy from She Speaks Too. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. This was kind of a quick one. Besides addressing the feelings with Tracy, her standing up for herself, boundaries, this was a quick review. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next week. Thank you.